Imagine if just 1 hour of your day, an hour you already possess but perhaps waste without noticing, could transform the entire direction of your life. What if the secret to unlocking your full potential was not hidden in complex systems or expensive courses, but in a simple daily practice that anyone, anywhere, could begin right now? This is the power of the 1 hour habit. This is Earl Nightingale with a message for anyone who desires a better life. Today I'd like to talk with you about something so simple, yet so powerful, that if you begin it today, it will alter the course of your life in ways you may never have imagined. I call it the 1 hour habit. You see, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. The difference between the person who accomplishes much and the one who accomplishes little is not talent, nor opportunity, nor even luck. It is what each chooses to do with those hours. 1 hour, set aside with purpose and consistency, can be the dividing line between mediocrity and greatness. What is this habit? It is the deliberate use of 1 hour a day, every day, for self-improvement. Not for work, not for distraction, but for your own growth. This hour is sacred. It belongs to no one else but you. During this hour, you might read the great books, those timeless works filled with ideas that have shaped civilizations. You might write down your goals and review them, letting them take root in your mind. You could study your craft, learn a new skill, or simply sit in silence and reflect. The activity matters less than the intent. The purpose is to feed your mind with what will elevate your life. I want you to remember this. 1 hour a day, consistently invested in your mind, will do more for your future than years of wishful thinking. That is the central idea. An hour of dedicated growth compounds, just as money compounds in a savings account. But while money may fluctuate, the compound interest of knowledge, discipline, and clarity grows more certain with each passing day. Now you may wonder, will 1 hour really make such a difference? Let me assure you it will. Think of it this way: an hour a day adds up to 365 hours in a year. That is more than 9 full weeks of concentrated effort. Imagine what you could accomplish if you devoted 9 straight weeks to the mastery of your goals. This is the hidden treasure that lies within the hours we so often spend in idle pursuits. Most people never take advantage of this. They drift through life, filling their hours with noise, gossip, and trivialities. But a select few, the ones we call successful, make use of their time as though it were the most valuable resource they own. And it is. This 1 hour habit does not require genius. It requires only discipline. It requires that you decide, once and for all, that your future is worth 1 hour a day. If you can do that, you'll soon discover that life begins to open doors for you. Opportunities appear, ideas flow, confidence grows, and goals that once seemed far away draw closer with each sunrise. Success is not an accident, nor is it the product of sudden luck or chance. It is the natural outcome of repeated actions, habits, and choices made consistently over time. What a person does day after day slowly builds the foundation of their character, their skills, and ultimately their results. If you look at the lives of those who have achieved greatness in any field, you will notice a common thread of devotion to discipline, a dedication to consistent practice, and a refusal to let short-term comfort outweigh long-term achievement. Success begins not with grand gestures, but with small, repeated acts that accumulate until they form a life of meaning and accomplishment. Every action we take leaves a mark. Just as water carves its path through rock, repeated behaviors carve our path through life. If you repeat laziness, distraction, or procrastination, the result is predictable. You will drift without direction, frustrated by the lack of progress. But if you repeat effort, persistence, and learning, you begin to form habits that carry you toward your goals almost automatically. Habits are powerful because they remove the need for constant decision-making. Once a positive action becomes a habit, it ceases to feel like a burden and instead becomes part of your identity. The great truth is that our lives are built not on what we occasionally do, but on what we repeatedly do. A single workout will not transform your body, but a commitment to exercise over months and years creates lasting strength. Reading 1 page will not make you wise, but reading every day expands your mind until wisdom becomes second nature. Writing in a journal once will not give clarity, but daily reflection sharpens your thoughts and strengthens your purpose. Repetition builds mastery, and mastery attracts success. Many people underestimate the power of small actions because the results are not immediate. When you begin something new, it often feels as if nothing is happening. The mind craves instant reward, but the truth of success lies in delayed gratification. The rewards come later, often long after the work has been done, but they arrive multiplied because the seeds you planted have had time to grow. This is why persistence matters more than intensity. A person who works with steady consistency will surpass the one who works with great energy but only occasionally. Think of the sculptor who chisels away at stone day after day. At first, there is little change, but with time the repeated strikes shape the stone into a masterpiece. Life is no different. Success is the product of steady effort, applied repeatedly, until the shape of your destiny becomes clear. The question then becomes simple: what are you repeating each day? Your habits are either serving you or sabotaging you. They are leading you toward your goals or away from them. Every moment of repetition builds momentum, and momentum has the power to make success feel inevitable once it is set in motion. The choice lies in what you allow yourself to do repeatedly, because that choice will, in time, define who you become. One disciplined hour has the power to transform the direction of an entire day, because how we begin or dedicate even a small portion of our time sets the tone for everything that follows. In a world filled with endless distractions and demands, it is easy to drift aimlessly from one task to another without clarity or purpose. Yet when you deliberately set aside 1 hour for discipline, whether it be for learning, reflection, planning, or focused work, you anchor your mind and spirit in intention. That single hour creates momentum, and momentum is what carries you through the remaining 23 with greater direction and strength. The human mind is like a compass, and without careful calibration it spins without pointing toward true north. A disciplined hour provides that calibration. If you begin your day with an hour of study, meditation, or purposeful action, you train your mind to focus rather than wander. You remind yourself of what truly matters and resist being pulled by trivial interruptions. That 1 hour becomes a statement, a promise to yourself that your life is not controlled by circumstance but by conscious choice. The rest of the day often bends to that choice, because the initial direction you set has extraordinary influence. Think of how an airplane alters its destination by even a slight adjustment in its flight path. A small change early in the journey leads to an entirely different landing point hours later. In the same way, one disciplined hour is that adjustment. It might seem small in the moment, but over time it alters the course of your entire life. A person who dedicates 1 hour daily to personal growth, to refining skills, or to pursuing their vision will not only have more productive days, but eventually a more meaningful existence. That hour compounds into weeks, months, and years of progress. The secret is not the length of the hour, but the focus within it. A distracted hour spent half-heartedly will do little, but a disciplined hour with complete attention can accomplish what many squander in several. During that time, you cut through the noise of the world and immerse yourself in what truly matters. Perhaps you read a chapter from a great book, write your thoughts and goals, or practice a craft that brings you closer to mastery. Whatever the activity, the discipline of doing it every day strengthens willpower and builds identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who honors commitment, someone who uses time wisely, and that self-image shapes your behavior beyond the hour itself. Once you experience the clarity and satisfaction that comes from one disciplined hour, you carry its energy into the rest of your day. You find yourself making better decisions, resisting distractions, and approaching tasks with a sense of control rather than chaos. That hour is the seed, and the other 23 are the fruit it produces. By dedicating just one disciplined hour, you are in truth shaping every moment that follows, proving that time, when used with purpose, has the power to turn ordinary days into extraordinary lives. The mind is the most fertile ground known to man, and what you choose to plant in it each day will eventually grow into the life you live. Just as a farmer carefully selects the seeds he sows, knowing that the harvest depends entirely on what is planted, you too are sowing seeds into your mind daily. Every book you read, every conversation you engage in, every thought you allow to linger becomes a seed. With time, these seeds take root, and they shape your character, your decisions, and ultimately your destiny. What you feed your mind is never neutral. It is either nourishing your future or weakening it. If you constantly consume negativity, gossip, and meaningless distractions, then you are filling your mind with weeds that will choke out potential and cloud your vision. The person who surrounds themselves with noise will find it difficult to hear the quiet voice of opportunity. On the other hand, when you feed your mind ideas of growth, wisdom, and discipline, you are cultivating a future of clarity and strength. The thoughts you allow in today become the actions you take tomorrow, and repeated actions form habits that create your future. Consider the difference between two individuals. One spends an hour each day scrolling aimlessly through trivial entertainment, filling his mind with nothing of lasting value. The other spends that same hour reading books that sharpen his thinking, listening to voices that challenge him to rise higher, and reflecting on his goals. At first, the difference is invisible, but over months and years, the contrast is as wide as night and day. One drifts with no direction, while the other steadily advances toward mastery and fulfillment. The only true difference is the diet of the mind. The mind is also remarkably obedient. It will believe what you feed it repeatedly. If you constantly tell yourself you are limited, that success belongs to others, or that your goals are impossible, your mind will accept those messages and build a life that matches them. But if you affirm growth, focus on possibilities, and surround yourself with ideas of progress, your mind will equally accept those truths and push you to act in alignment with them. What you feed it becomes its reality, and that reality becomes your future. The most successful people in history have all shared one habit: they guarded their minds as carefully as a treasure chest. They understood that the environment you create for your thoughts determines the life you build. They read, studied, and engaged with uplifting ideas daily, knowing that the compound effect of those inputs would show itself in every choice they made. Just as the body cannot thrive on junk food, the mind cannot thrive on junk thoughts. Your future is not built in a single leap, but in the quiet, consistent feeding of your mind. Each day you are either strengthening or weakening the foundation of your tomorrow. If you nourish your mind with truth, wisdom, and discipline, you prepare yourself for a harvest of success, confidence, and growth. The future is not some distant event waiting to surprise you. It is being shaped right now by the thoughts you allow to dwell in your mind today. Great achievements are rarely the product of sudden bursts of effort or extraordinary leaps forward. They are the natural outcome of small, consistent actions repeated over time. Life is built not in monumental moments, but in the quiet, often unnoticed steps we take each day. The truth is that consistency holds more power than intensity, because what we do regularly becomes who we are, and who we are ultimately shapes the results we achieve. The principle is simple yet profound. Small actions, compounded daily, produce results that seem extraordinary to the outside world, but are simply the sum of steady effort. Think of the way compound interest works in finance. A small investment, left untouched and steadily growing, eventually multiplies into a sum far greater than its beginnings. The same law applies to personal growth, habits, and success. When you commit to reading just 10 pages of a book each day, you may not feel different at first, but after a year, you will have absorbed thousands of pages of knowledge. If you write only a few paragraphs daily, eventually you will have written an entire book. If you exercise for 20 minutes each day, the results may not be visible after the first week, but over time your body will transform. Small actions appear insignificant in isolation, but compounded together, they reshape the course of a life. The challenge for most people is that small actions are easy to do, but also easy not to do. It is easy to skip a workout, to avoid journaling, to neglect learning something new, because the impact of missing one day is invisible. But it is also easy to commit to them, to show up for a short period of time, because the effort required is not overwhelming. Success comes to the one who chooses to consistently show up, even when the results are not immediate, because they trust in the unseen compounding process that is always at work. Greatness does not arrive with fanfare or overnight recognition. It grows quietly, hidden in the everyday choices you make. The person who decides to act with discipline, even in small ways, begins to separate themselves from the masses who live reactively. Over time, the gap between the disciplined and the undisciplined widens until it is unrecognizable. What began as a slight advantage in consistency becomes a life of extraordinary achievement compared to one of mediocrity. Every master was once a beginner who simply stayed consistent. Every strong tree was once a seed watered daily. Every empire was once built brick by brick. The principle never changes. Steady, intentional effort compounds until the results appear inevitable. The small things matter, and they matter most when they are repeated with purpose. What you choose to do consistently, no matter how small, becomes the invisible force that builds momentum. That momentum grows until it carries you forward, and the results, once unimaginable, become the natural harvest of a life built on small, consistent actions. There is a vast difference between living with direction and drifting aimlessly through the years. 1 hour of intentional growth each day holds more value than an entire lifetime spent without purpose, because growth is deliberate, while drifting is passive. To drift is to allow circumstances, habits, and the opinions of others to shape your life. It requires no effort, no thought, and no vision, and yet it always leads to dissatisfaction, because nothing meaningful is ever built by accident. Growth, on the other hand, is the result of conscious effort. It is the decision to take control of your time, your mind, and your future. Even dedicating a single hour each day to growth builds momentum that reshapes the course of a life. When you give yourself one focused hour, you are doing something rare. You are setting aside time not to react to the demands of the world, but to invest in yourself. That hour could be spent reading, learning a new skill, practicing your craft, or reflecting deeply on your goals and progress. The activity itself matters less than the intention behind it. What matters is that for that time, you are no longer drifting. You are moving forward with clarity, and that movement compounds with each passing day. Imagine two people standing at the edge of a river. One builds a boat and begins rowing steadily for an hour each day. The other drifts with the current, going wherever the water takes him. At first, it may not seem like there is much difference, but with time the one who rows intentionally finds himself miles ahead, while the drifter discovers he has been carried far from where he ever intended to go. Life works in the same way. Without intention, you drift. With intention, even a small effort changes everything. One disciplined hour of growth sharpens your mind, builds your skills, and strengthens your sense of purpose. It reminds you that your life is in your hands and that progress is always available to those who reach for it. Over time, this practice separates those who live with fulfillment from those who live with regret. A lifetime of drifting leaves a person wondering where the years have gone, but even a short season of growth leaves behind results that can be seen and felt in every area of life. The remarkable thing is that you do not need to revolutionize your schedule to begin. 1 hour out of 24 is a small fraction, yet its influence is extraordinary. It is proof that quality outweighs quantity, that focused growth outweighs endless motion without meaning. By choosing to dedicate just 60 minutes to intentional progress, you send a message to yourself and to life itself that you are not here to drift. You are here to grow, and that single choice, repeated daily, creates a destiny that drifting could never provide. Time is the one resource every human being receives in equal measure, yet how it is perceived and used makes all the difference between success and failure, peace and regret. Many people treat time as an enemy, feeling as though it slips through their fingers or works against their desires. They lament that there is never enough of it, or they waste it in idleness until it feels like a burden chasing them. But those who understand the true nature of time see it not as an adversary but as a faithful ally, always ready to serve those who use it wisely. Time cannot be stopped or reversed, but it can be directed, and in that direction lies the secret to building the life you desire. When you see time as an ally, you no longer rush through life impatiently or waste hours thoughtlessly. Instead, you realize that every minute is an investment. Just as a small amount of money compounded steadily becomes wealth, so too does a small amount of time applied daily to meaningful action compound into mastery, growth, and fulfillment. 1 hour spent learning each day creates expertise over the years. A few minutes of reflection each morning builds clarity and confidence. Consistent practice over months and years makes what once seemed impossible appear effortless. Time is never against you when you make it work in your favor. Those who treat time as an enemy are often those who delay action, procrastinate, and put off important tasks until tomorrow. They believe they have more time than they actually do, or they believe time itself is stealing opportunities from them. But in truth, time does not take, it only reveals. It reveals the results of how you have chosen to use it. The person who wastes time will eventually see the harvest of neglect, while the one who respects and uses time wisely will see the harvest of growth. Time does not discriminate. It rewards everyone according to how it is treated. When you adopt time as an ally, you begin to plan, prioritize, and live with intention. You understand that each day is not something to endure but an opportunity to create. You see mornings as a chance to set the tone, afternoons as a chance to produce, and evenings as a chance to learn or reflect. Every block of time becomes a partner in your progress rather than a chain around your neck. This shift in mindset allows you to move from stress to peace, because you know that as long as you use time with wisdom, it is always on your side. The greatest truth about time is that it magnifies whatever you give it. If you give it discipline, it magnifies progress. If you give it neglect, it magnifies failure. If you give it vision, it magnifies achievement. Time is not your enemy unless you make it so through waste and regret. Used with intention, it is your most loyal ally, carrying you step by step toward the future you desire. The human mind is one of the most fertile fields in existence, and like any field, it cannot remain barren. It will always produce something, and what it produces depends entirely on the seeds that are planted. If you plant weeds, weeds will grow. If you plant flowers, beauty will bloom. The mind makes no distinction between the seeds of success and the seeds of failure. It simply returns to you what you consistently sow. This is why guarding your thoughts and deliberately choosing what you allow into your mind is among the most important responsibilities you have in shaping your future. Every idea you accept, every belief you hold, and every word you dwell upon is a seed. Over time, those seeds germinate, take root, and influence your actions. Just as a farmer would never scatter seeds carelessly and expect a good harvest, you cannot afford to feed your mind with negativity, fear, or doubt and expect a life of growth and fulfillment. The mind will faithfully grow whatever it is given. If you allow discouragement, envy, and limitation to occupy your thoughts, you will harvest frustration and stagnation. But if you continually sow seeds of courage, gratitude, persistence, and vision, you will inevitably harvest success and peace. The remarkable thing is that the soil of the mind is incredibly obedient. It will accept whatever you plant in it, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant. A single negative thought, if entertained and repeated, can grow into a belief that limits your entire life. Likewise, a single positive idea, repeated daily, can expand into a habit that transforms your destiny. The choice lies entirely with the sower, not the soil. The soil simply does its work. It multiplies what it is given. This is both a warning and a promise. Most people underestimate the power of the seeds they scatter into their minds each day. They consume endless streams of meaningless content, gossip, and trivial distractions, unaware that these inputs are planting seeds of mediocrity. Over time, they wonder why their lives lack fulfillment, never realizing that the harvest is simply reflecting the seeds they allowed to take root. The mind cannot produce greatness from seeds of triviality. It cannot produce strength from seeds of weakness. The harvest always mirrors the planting. Yet for those who take responsibility for their mental garden, life becomes extraordinary. By intentionally feeding the mind with uplifting books, powerful ideas, and purposeful reflection, they cultivate a field that grows abundance, clarity, and achievement. The process may seem slow at first, just as a farmer must wait for the first shoots to appear, but with patience the growth becomes undeniable. The mind, like a field, rewards consistency. A little planting each day, carefully chosen, compounds into a harvest that far outweighs the effort. Your mind is always at work, whether you guide it or not. The only question is, what seeds are you planting? Because one day, without fail, you will reap the harvest of the thoughts you have sown. Energy is one of the most valuable resources you possess, and unlike money or possessions, once it is spent, it cannot be reclaimed. Where your focus goes, your energy flows, and this simple truth explains why some people achieve extraordinary results while others remain stuck despite having the same amount of time in a day. Focus acts like a lens, magnifying whatever you choose to give your attention to. If you direct your focus toward meaningful goals, your energy naturally fuels progress. If you scatter your focus on distractions, your energy is drained without reward. Energy does not flow randomly, it follows focus with unwavering loyalty. When you concentrate deeply on a task, you notice how everything else seems to fade into the background. Time passes quickly, your productivity increases, and what once seemed difficult becomes manageable. This is the power of aligned focus. It channels energy in a single direction, rather than letting it leak in every direction at once. Just as sunlight becomes powerful enough to burn when concentrated through a magnifying glass, your energy becomes powerful when directed through focus. The greater the clarity of your focus, the greater the strength of your energy. Most people, however, live in a constant state of distraction. They allow their attention to be pulled in dozens of directions by trivialities, noise, and impulses. As a result, their energy is scattered, leaving them exhausted without having achieved anything meaningful. This is why it often feels like you have worked all day yet accomplished little. The truth is, your energy has been wasted not because you lacked it, but because your focus was never steady. A river with no boundaries becomes a swamp, but when given a channel, it gains power enough to carve valleys and generate electricity. Energy works in the same way. Directing focus wisely requires intention. It means identifying what truly matters and refusing to give energy to what does not serve your growth. Every moment you spend on distractions is energy you are withdrawing from your future. Every moment you spend on purposeful action is energy you are investing. This distinction is what separates progress from stagnation. Successful people are not those with boundless energy, but those who have learned to guard their focus and channel it into what counts most. Once you understand that energy follows focus, you realize that your results are a direct reflection of what you have chosen to give attention to over time. If you focus on problems, your energy multiplies those problems. If you focus on solutions, your energy creates progress. If you focus on fear, your energy fuels hesitation. If you focus on possibility, your energy fuels courage. The direction of your life is, in large part, determined by the direction of your focus. Every day presents a choice. You can allow your focus to be stolen by distractions, or you can direct it wisely toward the goals and values that matter. Your energy will follow wherever you decide to place your attention, and the results will always reveal the wisdom, or the carelessness, of that choice. Freedom is a word that inspires every human being, yet few understand that true freedom is not the absence of rules, effort, or responsibility. It is the presence of self-discipline. Without discipline, life is dictated by impulses, habits, and external forces. A person without discipline may believe they are free because they can do as they please, but in reality, they are slaves to distraction, procrastination, and weakness. Self-discipline is the master key to freedom because it allows you to take control of yourself, and when you master yourself, no outside circumstance can truly imprison you. Every achievement in life is rooted in discipline. The artist who creates great works does so not because inspiration visits every day, but because discipline keeps them working even when inspiration is absent. The athlete who reaches excellence does not rely on fleeting motivation but on disciplined training repeated for years. The entrepreneur who builds success does not drift on luck but rises daily to practice the habits that make progress inevitable. Discipline opens the door to choice because without it, choices are made for you by comfort, fear, or laziness. Consider the difference between the disciplined and the undisciplined. The disciplined person wakes early, plans their day, and acts according to their vision rather than their feelings. They may not always feel like working, studying, or exercising, but they do it anyway because they know discipline creates results. The undisciplined person, however, lives at the mercy of moods. If they feel motivated, they act. If they do not, they drift. Over time, this difference builds a gap so wide that the disciplined live in freedom while the undisciplined live in limitation. Discipline also brings a kind of inner peace. Without it, you are constantly pulled in every direction, chasing pleasures and escaping responsibilities, only to feel regret later. But with discipline, you know you are steering your life, and that sense of control brings freedom from anxiety. You no longer waste energy on excuses or self-deception. You act, and in acting, you move closer to your goals. Each disciplined choice builds confidence, and confidence itself is freedom from doubt. It is easy to mistake discipline for restriction, but the opposite is true. Discipline is what gives you the ability to do what you want most rather than what you want in the moment. A musician is free to create music only because discipline allowed them to practice scales for years. A writer is free to express great ideas only because discipline taught them to write consistently. The body is free to move with health and strength only because discipline guided diet and exercise. Without discipline, there is no freedom, only slavery to impulses. The great truth is that discipline is not punishment but empowerment. It is the key that unlocks the life you envision by aligning your daily actions with your highest values. It is the quiet force that allows you to rise above weakness and live with intention. And in mastering it, you discover that freedom was never about doing anything you please. It was about gaining the strength to do what truly matters. The difference between mediocrity and greatness is not as wide as many people believe. It is often just 1 hour a day used with discipline and intention that determines which side a person will fall on. Mediocrity is the natural state of drifting, doing what is easy and spending time without thought. Greatness is the result of deliberate effort, consistent practice, and the purposeful use of time. The gap between the two is created not by talent or fortune, but by what a person chooses to do with the hours they are given, especially that 1 hour set aside for growth. 1 hour each day may not seem like much, but it adds up to more than 300 hours a year. That is the equivalent of weeks dedicated solely to personal improvement, learning, or mastery. Over a decade, it becomes thousands of hours. The person who commits this time to sharpening their mind, practicing their craft, or building new skills inevitably rises above the ordinary. Meanwhile, the one who dismisses the value of an hour continues to circle the same routines, achieving little beyond what is necessary to get by. Greatness is not about dramatic leaps or sudden transformations. It is about small, consistent steps taken daily. 1 hour spent reading the right books compounds into wisdom that reshapes how you think and act. 1 hour devoted to training your body compounds into health, strength, and resilience. 1 hour practicing your art compounds into mastery that separates you from those who dabble. The truth is simple: whatever you consistently invest that hour into will expand and elevate your life. Mediocrity thrives on excuses. It says there is no time, that life is too busy, that success belongs to others with better luck or greater talent. But greatness understands that time is not found, it is made. It carves out 1 sacred hour regardless of circumstances. This is the hour when distractions are put aside and focus is sharpened. It is the hour when you move forward instead of standing still. Over weeks and months, that hour becomes the invisible force that transforms an ordinary life into an extraordinary one. The most successful people in history were not necessarily the most gifted at the start. They were the ones who understood the value of focused time. While others wasted hours in idle entertainment, they invested theirs in growth. Over time, this commitment made them appear exceptional, when in truth they were simply consistent. The same opportunity exists for anyone willing to honor the discipline of 1 hour a day. That single hour can separate mediocrity from greatness because it represents the difference between drifting and directing, between wishing and working, between living passively and living with purpose. It is not the vast amount of time you possess that matters, but how wisely you use even a fraction of it. 1 hour of intention can shape the course of your life and create results that mediocrity will never know. Success is not built on chance, nor on rare moments of brilliance, but on the daily choices we make with our time, our focus, and our discipline. 1 hour of growth, one seed of thought, one consistent action may seem small in isolation, but over time these moments compound into a destiny. The mind is a field, and it will return whatever is planted. Energy follows where focus is directed, and discipline ensures that focus is not wasted. Time is either your greatest ally or your greatest regret, depending on how you choose to use it. Mediocrity and greatness are separated not by vast oceans of difference, but by the steady discipline of those who understand that an hour invested each day can build a life of freedom, mastery, and purpose. The call is simple yet profound. Take control of your time, master your mind, direct your focus, and plant wisely, because the habits you nurture today will become the reality you live tomorrow.